Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. Today, we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Rajesh. Mr. Rajesh has been working in the industry for a very long time, and today we are going to interview him and ask him questions that are asked in a Scrum Master interview, and we are going to give that knowledge to you guys to hopefully help you guys in your journey to become Scrum Masters. With that said, let's get started. So the first question, of course, is Mr. Rajesh. I know we did this last time too, but let's get started again. First question is, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Rajesh, and I'm working in IT industries for almost 2.5 decades. I started as a programmer, business analyst, then I was a tester, then I work in agile environment as a tester for almost like 15 years. Then I switch as a Scrum Master, and currently I'm working as a Scrum Master. And in the Scrum, I hold 7 to 8 certification right now, 5 of them from the Scale Agile. It's called SAFe as well.
Great. So what kind of teams have you worked with in the past?
So I work with the multiple teams. I work with the single team. I work with the 2 teams. I work with the team with the supporting team as well. I work with the architecture enabler team as well. I work with the development team. I work with the production support team. So different kind of teams, right?
So the teams that you worked for, what phases were they in? Like, there are 5 phases of the team growth. Can you talk about the different team phases and what phases your teams were in?
So if you can start with agile team phases, right? So the first one when we start with, so we can start with the forming, then storming, then norming, then performing, then adjourning, right? So how it works is when if we put 4 or 5 new people together, right? So the first thing is like they don't know each other, right? So like they will still try to stay in their own cocoon, that okay, I will do what I supposed to do. I do not like less interaction. Then what it's happening that eventually we have to work as a team together, right? So we have to open it up. When we open it up, there is always it'll come with the discomfort, right? So we will try to prove that no, I'm wrong. I mean I'm right, and I know everything. So that's like a storming phase, right? Where everybody's trying to prove themselves, oh, I'm right. So in that stage, when it continues that way, then they will realize, what, this is not going to work because we need to work as a team. Then we will start to listening everybody, right? So that was like norming phase, right? We will start listening to everyone, and then we're going to make a right decision at that point that, what, Mr. Chetan is having this option and my option is this, but looks like for our application, in the team, nobody's wrong actually, but we need to find out what is the best for the particular program or particular application or the product which you are designing or you're working on, right? So what is good for the product? So then we decided, okay, this uh, kind of opinion looks good for this project or for this product, right? So then we can take this and then we start working as a team together, making the right decision, making the right choice, and then we start performing, right? And when the project over, that's time the team will probably go to the different projects. That's adjourning stage, right? So these are the stage start, and it's not a set in stone that every team will go only one way. There is always plus and minus. So let's say I have a team, few folks, but uh, working for 6 months, right? So we are in performing stage. But if one person is going and another person is coming, then we may go into the storming phase or we may stay into the norming phase, right? So that plus and minus every time according to the team dynamics.
That's great. And what are some of the steps that you take, let's say when the team is in the forming stages or in the norming stages, and they're struggling and they're having conflict with each other? What are some of the steps that you take as a Scrum Master to
So,
kind of, to help the team?
right.
Yeah.
So there is no set in stone process. Every team is different. Every person is different, right? But you observe, you listen, and guide the team, right? So you know that some person is very knowledgeable, right? But he could be right, but not for this project. Based on your experience, you would be taking option A. But look at our project. We are not like multi-million dollar project or multi-million dollar company. So we need to take little bit lenient approach, and we need to go to this way. This is not an ideal way we have to do it, right? So sometimes you need to talk to the team, try to understand what is their perspective. First, you always listen, right? So that the situation will ease out first. And then you try to inform them that, okay, why we should do this, right? What are the reason behind it? And 95 out of 100 times it works for me.
Yeah. Let me ask you this way. How do you help the team become more mature team?
So
First of all, what's the meaning of maturity to you? What's a mature team to you? What's a mature Scrum team to you?
see, mature Scrum team in my word, right, is mature team means is a productive team. They make the decision which is best for the product. They take themselves out. It's work as a team. There is no I, is always team, right? Like in football, right? When the team score a goal, it is not who score the goal, team score the goal, right? So as long as it is sustainability in the team, and you can predict them that we will complete this product in this many months, you that predictability should be high, and it should always be that predictable. So the team is more predictable and deploy the value, deliver the value to the customers in timely manner. I think that's I would have called mature team.
I think that's a very important point that you brought up, predictability. And a lot of content that we see on YouTube, it doesn't bring that point of enough. Predictability is a very important factor in the maturity of a team. If you can predict what the velocity of the team will be and what the team will accomplish within a certain span of time with a certain span of money, I think that's very important. Predictability is super important. That's a really great point. Now, okay, so what does a cross-functional team mean to you, and what is a cross-functional team?
So cross-functional team, right, means the team should not just do one thing, right? If I'm only working in one technical program, like I'm Java developer and I will only do Java, I will not do anything else. That will not help the team. Sometimes team may need more expertise than just Java, right? So the cross-functional team means they can help each other out. They will come out from their own technology. They will open to learn something more. What is the need for the product, right? So you can help not just one way. You can help, we call it's a vertical help and horizontal help, right? So we expand in more horizons, right? We adopt more technology, the more help we can provide to the team, not just in one aspect of it. Not just one program or one language. We should be open up. My team should be do multiple things whenever it needed.
Great. I think that's called vertical slicing.
Yeah.
Is the name of the concept. But yeah, that's a really great point. And I think the reason I'm asking all these questions is because, see, the team is in the forming, norming, performing, maturing, and then adjourning stages, right? So in that concept, there has to be, you have to keep in mind that you have to make the team predictable. You have to make the team cross-functioning. You have to do those pair programming exercises, like you mentioned, the Java knowledge skill. All these things will go in your journey to make a team more mature as a Scrum Master. And that is kind of your mission as a Scrum Master. That's how you will deliver value to the team and your organization, to kind of do all those things together. So those are really excellent points. Now, what is an example of a working agreement? What is a working agreement? And if you can give an example with a scenario, and how have you done it in the past?
So working agreement, right? So team should be, for example, how the team will work. So in my team, right, the team decided the product owner should be available from at least 4 hours a day for the team to interact. That's one of the team agreement, right? The team should be in the meeting 5 minutes before the meeting time starts. That's our working agreement, right? After Friday afternoon, there is no meeting because we want to make sure, or we have like block no meeting after 2 o'clock, because afternoon after 2 o'clock we want to give a time for the team just to focus on the work. No meeting or anything. We need to do it on the calendar. So those are the working agreements for the team, how team wants to carry on the process, their work, and what the team feels comfortable.
That is great. And generally what I like to do is that before the start of every project, I will have a conversation with the other stakeholders, with the product owner, with the team members, and I will set up like a bar of like our conversations, bar of our expectations, what you can expect from each other, and
Yep.
that will already set the bar high.
Yep.
If like, there will be less conflict, there will be more smoothness, there will be more like clear expectations of where we are going and where this relationship can go and where can it fall to the lowest number. So that's very important. That's a great point that you brought up.
Yep.
Now, the next question is, give me an example of a conflict resolution scenario in your particular role.
So uh, one general example, if I give you, right, that uh, we, we we have our stand up, right? We start stand up at 9:30, and I just joined that team because that team was already exist and somebody was running it, and that Scrum Master left. So I joining as a team, and I see if somebody's not joining at 9:30, he's always come at 9:40, no matter how many times I email to the team, that because I don't want to like pinpoint one person, right? So I send out email to the team. Hey team, I would like to request everybody to join 2 minutes before our stand up, because we used to meet in one room. It was our team war room. We used to meet, right? So I it did not work. So I decided, you know what, let me talk to him in person. So I talked to him in person, realized that he cannot come at 9:30 because he has to drop his kids at 9:30. So there is no way he can come at 9:30. So then eventually I gave him some time, and then eventually I moved my meeting at 10 o'clock, right? So it should not be him or disclosing the team because of him I'm moving it, but I move it because I wanted to move it that way, and it works for everybody else. So you got to help them out, right? So, and another conflict is like somebody is new in your team and somebody is staying there for 4 or 5 years in the organizations. So there is always like a conflict, or I am right or not. So sometimes I have to talk to them that, you know what, regardless of who joined when and who is senior or junior in this company, it does not matter for the product owner, because we want to deliver it as a team, right? So if you're senior, that doesn't mean that your name go there and say, okay, you did work or whatnot. We need to deliver it as a team. So why don't we work as a team? Because when you go vacation, right, if you go out for vacation, we don't want to rely on you, because we need, as a team, we need to take a responsibility, shared responsibility we need to take. So let's work as a team, and it worked. So
That's great. Yeah, and also never not pin like you mentioned, not pinpointing anyone in front of all the whole team. Kind of
yeah.
having individual interactions with the parties involved, and kind of understanding where they are coming from also goes a long way. Having empathy goes a long way, and yeah, so those were really great points. Now, what is like the backlog prioritization like strategy that you use? What's like your backlog prioritization technique that you're using currently in your role? How do you do it? Can you give an example?
So in my company, the backlog prioritize is done by the PO. I don't interfere in that, but I always make sure there is no conflict in priority when you present it to the team. There cannot be two stories as prioritized, like I want this both to be done, or all my stories are high priority. That should not be done, right? We should have top, the next one, and next one. So we know that these are all prioritized from top to bottom. We cannot have all 20 story all high priority. That is conflicting, right? What is the priorities? That is product owner part, and I will let them decide what priority based on the customer input, right?
Uh,
So,
Talk to us about your relationship with your product owner. How is your
so
relationship? How do you start it? How do you define it?
okay, so I don't consider product owner as not part of the team, right? He's part of my team, and we have to work hand to hand, right? Sometimes there is a conflict, then we need to listen to both the party. I sit down with my product owner separately. I understand what is his concern. I sit down with my team. I understand what is their concern. Sometimes I talk to team separately when our we cannot deliver, right? Sometime we can deliver. So we have to ask to them what happened. I want to make sure my team is not being forced or being misguided by the PO. The same time, I want to make sure the PO is okay, because PO is not doing their own thing. He is trying to satisfy the customer. Now, if he's promising wrong to the customer, that should not be my team's fault, right? Then we need to also make him understand that, okay, you cannot promise them without my team's buy-in, because you are not delivering. My team is delivering, right? So we are delivering as a one unit. So before you commit anything, you got to let us know, or let the team get buy-in. Let team tell you that, okay, what we can commit, right? So it is a healthy relationship. You got to keep it. There is always going to be conflict anyways. There is not, there is nothing all good all the time. But whenever there is a conflict, there is a way, the process you follow, you try to listen, try to convey, and come up with some kind of solution where both the team and the PO are happy.
That makes a lot of sense. And in this role, also the working agreement during the start of the relationship will go a long way as well. It'll clear the expectations as well. So now, the way you explained it, it makes clear sense. Like a Scrum Master is kind of a bridge between the reality of the technical team and the expectations of the business side, and kind of matching those expectations with the reality and making sure they are on the same level. So that's why a Scrum Master is a very crucial role. So that's a great answer. Now, talk to me about scope creep. What's your understanding of scope creep, and how do you handle it?
Right. So scope creep, lab, when you try to make a lot of changes after you commit the stories, right? Let's say we committed 5 stories, right? And let's say there's a 2 weeks of sprint. And after 1 week, product owner is coming, oh, I need to do 2 more stories here, right? So it will change the team dynamic, it will change the product dynamic and whatnot, right? So what would happen is there is a process to follow. If there is any stories need to come into the product backlog, right? So first thing is, let's discuss with the team. Let's find out, is this that necessary that you cannot wait for next week till our sprint is over? Let's discuss that part. Oh, we have to do it. Okay, if we have to do it, what we needs to do, is this a small change? Is this the team can do it if they work extra couple of hours? Can team do it? No. Then see, okay, what we need to take it out from the sprint. What are the risks we are doing it if we do these changes? So we have to find out the risk. We need to find out what is required and how we wants to carry forward this change if he needs to do it. First, we try to eliminate that, okay, if we don't have to do it, then wait. If we cannot wait, then how big it is, what are the risks, and what are the concern we have. We have to communicate that, okay, if you're doing this, we don't have a time for the tester to do entire regression testing. We can only do the minimum testing if that's what you would like to do, right? And if we do it, these are the risks that we do not know existing functionality may impact or not. So we will let the product owner decide, right? So as a team, we need to do the assessment and do the best, what is best for the team. But finally, the PO has yay or nay, final yay or nay.
And what if the PO pushes too much work and the capacity is only so much? Uh, how do you handle that scenario?
Right, right. So, I have to talk to product owner, right? Because I have to talk to my team. We need to listen the concern. I have to talk to the PO and find out that, okay, should not happen. If it is happening 1 or 2 times, that's okay. But if it is happening and keep pushing my team, that should not happen. And that's where you are. That's where the Scrum Master job is, right? That we do not want that to happen. It just try to convey the message, try to listen the PO first, and then bring the team's concern.
Okay, interesting. Now, what about user stories? So, what's the meaning of a user story to you in your team? How do you write a user story? Who writes a user story? So, everything and that entails the user story. Let's talk about that.
So, user story, right? Writing is a part of the product owner, right? So sometime if product owner do not know, then we have a template defined in my company that I always give them a template that this is the template we follow. So it first start with the descriptions, right? What is the user story, right? It will have acceptance criteria in the Gherkin format, right? One or two acceptance criteria or more than that, right? After that, if there is a UX UI, then there has to be a wireframe associated with that. If it is a production defect, then we should have that defect number and everything also, that separate sections. And at the end, there is a special notes. If we have any special notes or anything like that, we can always add it up there. So that's like a sample user story we have. I always give that samples to my PO if they do not know, otherwise they create all of that, right? And it is a small piece of work, right? The scope defined and small unit for your entire work. That, okay, for example, if I'm in the search page, right, and if I'm typing a keyword and clicking the search button, it should display the search result, right? It is a small scope. It is defined with acceptance criteria that what it should accept into the search bar, right? When it should be disabled, what should be enabled, and then at the search result, what want to display, right? What columns or fields we want to display. So it is a small, specific, scoped work which everybody can understand. They can develop, define, and test it, right?
So it's basically a minimum viable product.
Yeah.
And one thing you brought up is that everybody can understand. So it has to be written in a language where everybody, even the business side, can understand it very well. And then definition of done has to be there. And then it has to make sense to have acceptance criteria also attached to it. And the template, of course, comes into play.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's great. What about a definition of done? What does a definition of done mean to you? How do you use it?
Okay. So definition, right? There is two type of definition of done and definition of ready. Now, what is definition of ready? Let's do that one first, right? Because that's most important. That's starting point. What is the definition of ready? So in the sprint planning, when team wants to have the story in the sprint backlog, right? That time, that's definition will count. That before the team take the story into the sprint, in our definition, we have a story should be groomed, story should have a story point, story should have a priority, and there should be nothing missing into the story. So sometimes what happened when we are doing a grooming, right? We did a grooming of the story. We already said, okay, this is a 5-pointer story. And then we should say, okay, we can take its story, but we want to make sure that we have this, define a dependencies or necessary information to be have in the story first before we start the story. So we add the comment in there, right? So those things should be taken care of before this team take this story into the sprint backlog. So that's what we call definition of ready, right? So that we are, as a team, we are ready to pick up that story and start to work on it. That's the definition of ready, right? What is any question on that one, by the way?
No, that sounds good. Now let's discuss definition of done.
Definition of done, right? So that is a product owner's things, right? That when the product owner mark that particular story as done, right? So before done, there could be status like accepted, right? So what happened is, for example, I'm giving you a hypothetical example in my team that, okay, we develop the story in the sprint, we show the demo to the PO, and he said, yes, this story is good, and he accept the story. But that is not the done. Done means we take that story, put it that particular code into the integration environment. It should be done from there as well. And then we deploy that code into the production environment, and it should be past the testing or at least 10 days work. If that is done, then product owner says, okay, this story is done, right? So that's the definition of done. Means you want to make sure the story is completely done, delivered. Means every organization may have a different definition for that, but in my company, that's a definition that it should go through the production and should be deployed in the production without any issue. Then we can say this story is done.
Mhm. And then a stamp of approval from the product owner.
Yeah.
So basically, definition of ready when something has to be moved from the backlog to the sprint, and the definition of done when something has to be moved from the sprint to done.
Yeah, means
That criteria.
sprint would be done right
Yeah,
at that point. It will be out from the sprint, but it will still stay in the backlog. It still stay in the Jira board, right? Our
yeah,
board with the product owner,
yeah.
right? Because it will be
Until the product owner gives a stamp of approval.
yeah.